when last we left our intrepid adventurers, we had worked out our plan. The problem was that the end of all things had been Timepolined over to the first adventure and killed our party when they were first level. So what we were going to do is we were going to go there and build our own Timepoline and send it to Allenway, where we could then send it to the Oodlands, part of our plan to destroy it. So we went back to the first adventure, and last session we were sort of scouting around and making our plan, finalizing our plans. What we did was, we built a spider hole using stone shape. We dug a hole in the floor, essentially. And serendipity, Van Goldstein Moore, Topper Tower Ship, Soul Shard Time, Doom Delayer, Salvation of Children, Star-Lord, was going to hide under the floor. And Aram Ben-Jarrad was going to be there to guard her. Also, that way Aram Ben-Jarrad wouldn't be running around screwing up the time screen, as he is wont to do.
I guess he did steal those.
Yes, yeah. So we got an eye on him.
And the party, I haven't given the party their actual loot from that yet, so I don't think they've come to truly appreciate it yet. They're just like, yeah, you made us pull Jenga blocks. I haven't yet felt the reward. I need to remember to do that.
It better be some kind of anti-shapeshifter grenade that we got from there.
You got one of those. It's called Cricket.
It's called Cricket. Yeah, I know. I'm hoping that I don't have to detonate. But anyway, we'll get to that in a sec. The goat bomb.
That's
but anyway.
a very different picture in my head.
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, Serendipity and Ben-Jarrad will be under the floor in exactly the right spot to be casting this ritual. Croesus is going to be waiting by the big pit full of maggots, so that when Henley shows up, he will grab Henley and toss a substitute corpse that we picked up earlier into the pit. Henley, when we first were thrown into this chasm, there were 3 NPCs with us. There was an unnamed peasant woman, an unnamed genocide, and a gnome named Henley. And they all died very quickly. The peasant woman and the genocide never even made it into the dungeon. They fell off of this sort of platform we landed on, or in the genocide's case, got exploded by lightning. Henley was with the party briefly, but he was a very headstrong and individual, and so he decided to leave the party and go off on his own. And he went around the corner, and then we followed him. He was already dead. We got around the corner.
Yeah,
it was
classic.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's funny because during that adventure, I kind of wanted these NPCs there just to show how dangerous the situation was, and hey, you're first level again, so you just finished an epic thing, and
things are gonna kill you.
You can't save them, whatever. And they were there for that purpose, and I really didn't want them to survive because I just didn't want them hanging around. It would be annoying. So I made sure that it was impossible. There's no way that they could save these guys, and of course,
now they
found a way.
Save them. Yeah.
They played for 5 years, leveled up to level 24,
arranged
and
for it
come back in time.
Arranged for it to be a time travel campaign.
Yes.
So the plan is, so Croesus is there for Henley, and then Hank and Cricket are on bronze griffins out in the chasm itself. And Hank was going to sort of hover underneath the platform, so when the peasant woman fell down, he would catch her. And I was going to be flying around above. With the genocide, he got hit by lightning a couple times and then exploded. So what I was going to do is substitute myself for the final lightning bolt, essentially. I was going to swoop down, disguised as a chaos creature, and snatch him away and carry him off, going, ha ha ha, I have destroyed you, or whatever. So that effectively it's still the same outcome, but we have saved him. Because we weren't able to save them the last time we were here. It's the right thing to do.
It's still different.
A little bit.
It is a bit different, but if it's close enough, you don't have to pull Jenga. It's kind of If no one really knows, if it's more or less the same.
Yeah.
And they're gonna put those guys in time capsules.
Yeah. After we've got them secured.
Yeah.
We'll put them in primal prisons to wait until they catch up with baseline so that they won't affect time.
It's not too bad for them because that's only like a year.
Yeah.
So, but
it's better than dying.
Yeah.
I think it's just like it's not really that important to save them, but it left a big impression on them, right? Like the very beginning of the campaign, these 3 characters they didn't save. They've talked about them many times. Now they're like, we can do it.
I thought I missed something. There's some tradition you do from Henley.
No. It's because they're saps.
If anything, it's going to really complicate things a bit because Henley owns a portion of cricket. And yeah, I mean, it's not going to be an immediate concern because his ownership is not going to be restored until the change in timeline catches up with cricket, and so he'll already be in the primal prison by then, and then we won't be able to take him out because et cetera, et cetera. So it should
Although,
be
to be strictly
pure.
correct, he would still have to be consulted every time they tie. The majority of stake owners tie throughout the history.
It would be really useful.
Yeah.
But the thing is, cricket didn't know that.
Right.
So, yeah, even though there would have existed this tie-breaking vote, it would have been moot because cricket didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And I can't tell her about it because that would change history.
Right.
So,
Good point. Yeah.
So, yeah. And not changing history has priority over obedience.
Right.
That's been previously established. So, yeah, it's not going to be an immediate concern, but it's going to throw an interesting wrench in things later on, possibly.
And to be clear, they came back. The purpose of coming here was to Timepoline away the end of all things.
Yes.
Saving the party members is just like, hey, we can do this free and passive.
They got distracted.
No, it's a salvation of opportunity.
Well, and all that's necessary is Serendipity has to cast a ritual for like 10 minutes. That's it. So what could go wrong?
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Nothing at all could go wrong.
Nothing possibly could go wrong. There should definitely not be time mages here.
No, certainly
supporting the void.
All that stuff about cricket being a bomb, that's, obviously something unrelated. No.
That's a ruse.
So yeah, we're approaching end of all things moment, and so Serendipity is down there casting her ritual, and it's like, what was it, about 5-10 rounds before something like that?
It's close by. And,
Yeah.
And I think the first thing that happened was the
peasant woman.
sacks start falling onto the thing.
And then
the party's struggling to get out, and cricket in particular is really struggling.
It's funny. I remembered failing rolls.
Yeah,
after failing rolls. I couldn't get out of the sack.
Yeah, you couldn't get into the fight.
Yeah.
And then I think as soon as you got into the fight, you got knocked down like several
I
times.
can't remember that part, but
That's what I
do remember not being much of a participant in the initial battle. So anyway, the peasant woman gets out of the sack and then falls off the platform, and Hank catches her and knocks her out and drapes her over the bronze griffin because that's easier than trying to convince her not to panic.
Right.
I think it was around, and the genocide.
And the genocide is up there, and I know that those rescues happened before what happened inside happened because I swooped down and I grabbed the genocide, and I didn't knock him out. I just grabbed him, and that's when something happened.
Yeah, I think slightly earlier. First, it was that Croesus' chaos creature, like, hey, there's a chaos creature or void creature nearby. Alarm pinged. So he knew there was some skulking around. And then stuff happened out there, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of goblin. I guess at first it was just these 4 goblin come running out, and they come and stand right around the area where the end of all things is going to appear. So it's 4 squares, and in the center is this little tiny spider hole for line of effect. And they start doing this weird ritual that is like way too advanced for goblin that is countering what Serendipity is doing.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's when we start realizing, oh crap, there's complication.
Yes. And so,
fortunately, it's just goblin, and Croesus likes killing goblin, and I had already essentially pre-resigned myself to having to disguise myself as a bunch of goblin and fight the party and get knocked out and all that sort of stuff later on. So we're like, okay, Croesus, go ahead, kill some goblin. However,
They're not goblin.
well,
I don't remember
no,
exactly the order. I forget if he killed some goblin. No, at first they attacked him.
Yeah.
Because they didn't. So then just goblin just come out of the woodworks from all around every corner, every pile of rubble, and they all do this this magical death ray on, like a death spell, kind of necrotic spell on Croesus, which is also something that goblin have no business doing.
Yeah.
And they all just focus fire on him, hammer him.
They actually
hard.
bloody him.
Whoa.
He doesn't have his armor on.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, they lay a pounding on Croesus and hurt him badly. And meanwhile, out in the void, the chasm, Hank and Cricket now have both of those peasant people, and
They're magical.
the gems were in contact with each other. So at this point, I'm like, oh, holy crap, things have gone suddenly south, sideways. And so Hank and Cricket need to arrange to get inside there real quick.
Yeah.
Cricket can turn us both invisible, and then so she sort of swoops past Hank swoops past her, and she turns Hank and herself and the two NPCs and their griffins invisible, and takes the peasant over from Hank, and Hank swoops past and flies past the party, the passive party.
Yeah, level 1 party.
Yeah.
Because that giant lizard was already burst out from the doors,
Right.
or from the
Yeah.
wall. So they fought in the first adventure. They were on this metal thing, this weird metal, this piece of sheet metal with pipes sticking out of it that was barely hanging on to the edge. Turns out it was a fountain from the old fancy mall, and then from the rubble that was holding it on, it burst out and a big lizard came out and tried to eat them.
Yeah.
It had already done that, so Hank just flew right
past the lizard.
past the lizard, in flight, turned his bronze griffin back into
A figurine.
a figurine,
Yeah.
and then just went running through. Made an epic check and just ran right through the door without even having to like make any action. It's just as part of his movement, he just busted the door off the hinges and came howling in with his barbarian charge.
I suggested you should have a bonus on that roll if he yelled "Oh yeah" while doing it, but he declined.
I did give him a +1 because he was a barbarian.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. He easily did it, but it's just like it just seems like something a barbarian should do.
Bash through a door.
So he just blew in through there and started attacking the goblin.
I think he probably killed. That's probably the first kill.
Yeah,
he killed one of them. It turns out they were minions.
Yeah, they're high level minions.
Yeah. And he killed it, and not unexpectedly, it melted into a black goo.
Yeah. So
And I think it was slightly after this, but Serendipity did our Arcana check, and they're basically the same level of difficulty as the Time Mages they encountered way back. They're supposed to be like 15th level, but since that doesn't work, they're just level 25 minions.
Yeah.
So they hurt you, but you kill them easy.
yeah, it was about that moment I think when we built that spider hole underneath the spot where the Timepoline needed to be built.
Yeah.
Serendipity insisted that it had have a back door.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to be cornered.
Right.
Turns out that was a mistake.
Because the goblin got in?
No, not a goblin. A frog. A frog came flying up through the hole and landed in the spider hole with them. Because we made it spacious. There was enough room for an extra person in there. Well, probably shouldn't have done that either. Could have been exactly big enough for them, then it wouldn't have been able to get in. It would have been great.
Yeah, they wanted. I asked them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it could be 10 by 10. Yeah, we're gonna because
Make a nice comfy place so that, anyway. So yeah, it flew in there and then it immediately shed its disguise because it wasn't fooling anyone. We all knew at this point they're time mages. And it's another one of those mouths of the void.
Ah, yes.
it looks very similar,
Yeah.
but this one was more masculine looking.
So I immediately say, "Quick, Gerard, seduce him!" But didn't go for that. Yeah.
We realized that it was basically the brother of the girl that he had like fooled around with and then just dumped.
Right.
So he was like right pissed off.
But he wasn't going to do that for another year or so. Or actually, no, he did that hundreds of years ago. That's right, yes. He did that hundreds of years ago. Hasn't he gotten over it? Whatever.
Existence is pain, Brian.
Existence is pain.
Time is meaningless.
He's been fuming for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, at this point, I sort of realize, yeah, holy crap, we're in some deep trouble here.
Yeah.
The rest of the party doesn't seem to quite get just how dangerous these mouths of the void are, because the last one we fought, we seduced, and then we just pummeled with a whole bunch of critical hits right off the bat, and just creamed it.
Yeah.
But I recognized that we were lucky, and there were a lot of circumstantial things in our favor there.
Right.
And we don't have we don't have those circumstantial things in our favor now. And so this is a dire situation. And so I sort of ask over the radio stones, oh holy crap, I think I should just dump these peasants into the chasm and come down there, like get rid of the dead weight. and they were like, no, don't dump the dead weight. We're trying to save them. All right.
Throw them in the basement.
So, well, we don't have time for that.
You gotta lay it out.
Yeah. At this point, I'm like, okay, I have a move, a standard, a minor.
Right.
I can use an action point to get a standard. I can use haste to trade a move for a minor like this. How do I plan this out in absolute? Use every piece of my kill.
Yeah.
So anyway, I fly my invisible griffin with the two dead weights on it down, and I land it right in front of that door that Hank smashed through. Unfortunately, to get the griffin to go through it would have to squeeze. So too slow. It would cost me like a square in total of movement.
Yeah. So you leap off.
So I leap off the griffin, or I think I turn it into a figurine. Yeah. And the two peasants, the genocide, the peasant woman fall to the floor. The peasant woman's unconscious. The genocide is still conscious, which now I realize is a mistake, but whatever. And so I tell him, stay here. Under no circumstances leave this spot. Diplomacy check, 45 or something like that. And he's like, yes. I stay right here. Not. Okay. So I charge on through the door, and I actually have a really awesome minion buster area attack spell that I've been wanting to use. I got it recently. Yeah. It's an area effect that does will attacks, and when I miss on will attacks, I get to re-roll them. It's great.
It's great.
So there were these three goblin. They were right in a little cluster, so I dropped my minion buster on them, and I had to roll a 15 to hit, I think, and I didn't roll above 7, except on the very last roll. I managed to hit one. I rolled a bunch of 2s. Yeah. That became a running theme of the fight, was rolling 2s, specifically 2.
It's like Mika was there with you.
It's like I was there.
It's the opposite of the last time when you just critted their faces off. Yeah. Serendipity had a bit more luck with minion busting. First I should say, actually, before the Mouth of the Void appeared, Gerard had jumped up and killed a couple of those goblins.
Oh, yeah.
He phased through the floor. This huge wolf appears through the floor, savages them, and then he went back down into the hidey hole. Yeah. This is before he knew that the Mouth of the Void was going to be down there. Yeah. Serendipity didn't want to be down there with the Mouth of the Void, so I don't remember how, but she teleported out of there and got up top side, and then she fried a bunch of them with chain lightning. She has this chain lightning. It hits one, then it hits all adjacent, and then it hits everything within like 30 squares.
Wow. It's ridiculous.
So she killed like half the minions. Maybe more than half. Just bam, killed them all. There were some lurking in the wings, specifically for that reason, to be a second wave. There were still enough minions that they did a very painful attack, and they would just all focus.
I was referring to them as the firing squad, right? Because every round they pick one person, and just
and it was actually the first round they all hit Croesus, and the second round they all hit Croesus, but he had his armor up and it almost did nothing. Yeah. But then Hank came charging in, and that was when it was like, great, we can do something
fresh
again.
Meat. So they focused fire on Hank and did a tremendously painful amount of damage.
But
Serendipity managed to teleport out of there.
But then that left on the.
The problem is Croesus teleported down into there. How did he do that? When did that happen?
He did that as part of what I'm going to describe.
Okay, right. Okay, sorry. I
forgot about that part anyway. But so that left Gerard and the Mouth of the Void alone together in the spider hole. And so the Mouth of the Void attacked and grabbed Gerard. and critically missed. Then it attacked, but it gets 2 standard actions.
Because it's solo.
It attacked and grabbed Gerard again, and succeeded, and then Croesus did the wait thing, and teleported through the spider hole in there, rolled a 2. And missed, and he teleported, but put the attack on the B thing didn't work, and so Gerard got grabbed. And then I used my action point to do the
swallow thing.
He picked up Gerard, opened his mouth hugely wide, and ate him.
Right. At which point, Cricket?
No.
Because Cricket didn't have line of effect because they were down in the spider hole.
And even if I did, it's just Gerard. I know that sounds horrible, but it is.
Not a donor.
Yes.
And then I describe how hard it is to get out from being digested.
Also, we really need serendipity to do this ritual.
Yeah.
If Siri doesn't do that ritual, really nothing else matters.
Right.
And that also is a thing where she has about 5 rounds of leeway, but if she spends more than 5 rounds not doing the ritual, then every round over that, they're going to have to deal with the end of all things for a round before Timepolining.
And in my opinion, I really think even a single round at the end of all things being present is going to irreparably damage the timeline.
Right.
Because it's going to eat the room.
Right.
And then how do we fix it in 1 round? No.
Because the party's going to show up in less than 10 rounds. They're going to be coming through. I mean, I guess it's
we
less
do
than
have some...
it's 6 rounds till they get into the area where the cleaning equipment was, where you dumped off those 2 characters, and then they'll spend a couple minutes in there. But you got to get those characters out of there before the party encounters them, because they're only invisible for a round, so they're now visible.
So, I was sort of thinking about that, and it's kind of it's catastrophic, but it's like a sub-catastrophe. If the party encounters those 2 characters out there, it'll at least slow them down, because they're going to spend some time talking with.
How did you survive?
It's what's going on and all that stuff. And that's still a catastrophe, and we'll have to do something to fix the timelines about it, or endure a collapse of the time tower or whatever. But at least it's keeping them out of the room at the end of all things in it. So it's a layer of
just a catastrophic addendum.
Yes. It's the pre-catastrophe.
What you should do
that will delay them to getting the proper catastrophe
is get serendipity to invent a Men in Black sterilizer. You can save money
in 1 round.
I mean, in general, you can save money on fights that only work on the party. Well, all you need to do is every single time they find out that you guys exist and
neuralize.
My suggestion was make the entrance to that room a portal to another dimension where they have a fake copy of the room, and then they just keep the old party in there and make the entire adventure pretensies in their holodeck.
And they have to go back and do what the party did.
But we can do it as 25th level characters.
And then keep that going.
Exactly. Never let them out.
Then it got really meta.
A simulation inside the universe. In their world, they have to go back in time to say there's something in the whole thing. By branching into a sub-universe.
But we're not going to do that. Anyway.
Why the hell not?
To Rick and Morty.
It would require a little more prep time, I think, than we have.
One thing that came up as Gerard was being eaten is desperate attempts to try to make that not so bad. There was
wasted so many cinematic points.
They were using cinematic points, and they were trying to figure out, he had a thing where as an enemy attacks you, as an immediate interrupt, you can daze them. And this guy actually, not daze them, dominate them.
Yes.
And they asked about cinematic points, and I decided that if you use a cinematic point, you use that, and you hit, then you can, while you're being digested, actually dominate the mouth of the void the whole time. So as long as you're being digested, you can puppet him around.
That would be
but you're being digested, and he'll only live 3 rounds. But the other option they had was something that would give him resistance to the necrotic or something, which would mean that
it would take forever to digest.
He would only take 2 damage a round, so it would take him an hour to digest Gerard and give him indigestion, which means Gerard will live for a long time. And so they used the cinematic point, the party cinematic point, I think, to give him the attempt at the dominate.
And I used my personal cinematic point to use my Glimpse the Future ability so I could get a D20 roll I could bank to send him. I rolled 2 2s and an 11. Waste of a cinematic point.
So then Gerard decided to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And he rolled a 2.
Yep.
So then they used the party cinematic point to use the safe bet,
Yeah.
which
Which
meant that it'll take a very long time for Gerard to die.
Right. So we blew a bunch of cinematic points, and the end result is Gerard's going to be harder to digest. Anyway, I think that was probably the worst waste of resources in that fight so far. Everything else we've done pretty efficiently, but that was terrible. So,
The party doesn't often use its cinematic points anyway lately,
Yeah.
so
and we're going to be leveling up after this anyway. So. But still, it would be nice to still have that cinematic point for what comes next. So, end of the Mouth of the Void and Croesus are down in the spider hole. And it kind of sucks, but, Croesus is incredibly hard to hit. Maybe he can tank this thing and keep it tied down or whatever.
its first attack has to hit AC, and it has to roll the Mouth of the Void still has to roll 16 on the die to hit.
Yeah, and Croesus is all kinds of weird BS. So we figure, okay, that's all right. It's not the best, but Serendipity's up topside. She's continuing to do her ritual. Hank and Cricket can do some minion popping. Okay, we can do this. So it's the Mouth of the Void's turn, and first thing it does is go all like shapeshiftery and squeeze out through the tiny hole in the spider hole and come up topside, leaving Croesus down below.
The funny thing was, I forgot it could do that, but then the part I was like thinking about, oh crap, it's trapped with Croesus, and then Shannon said something like, yeah, it's too bad it could get out of there by doing the shapeshift goo thing, and I was like, oh yeah, good point. Though to be fair, that's what it should have done. It's just I wasn't thinking.
You're going to do that while it has something inside it.
Apparently it can, because when you're swallowed by it, you're not really inside it. You're in Mithrendane, essentially.
It's kind of weird.
You're in the place where things that don't exist are. So yeah.
And they previously established you can eat 2 people at once, then it's full.
Yeah.
So it can still eat someone.
And of course, it focuses its attentions on serendipity.
Because its primary goal is to stop the ritual at all costs.
Yeah. Fortunately, I had thought ahead to this, and when serendipity came topside, I had specifically made sure that Cricket was within Guardian's counter range.
Right.
So it goes over to Serendipity and eats her, and I do that. Wait. Or rather, the dive and no. So Cricket gets swallowed.
Second time in a week.
Yep. Both times we've encountered a Mouth of the Void, I have dove in to its mouth to stop Serendipity from being eaten. I think the first one was Serendipity too, right?
So yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so now we're in trouble. Party Healer and also, I guess, Ben Gerard are stuck inside this thing being digested. I'm not too concerned about that part because both of us have, even Cricket, who doesn't have the resistance or whatever, I have enough hit points that I'm going to last long enough that it won't matter.
If they haven't killed it in time for Cricket to live, they're
screwed anyway. So now it's Serendipity and Hank versus Mouth of the Void and the firing squad, the remaining firing squad.
Right.
Croesus is stuck.
Yeah, because he can teleport. I think he can teleport to an attack, but he can't.
It was an encounter power he used. He can break through the floor, but it's 80 hit points.
And he's not a big
And he
damage
doesn't do a lot of damage.
Right.
So yeah, I think
He doesn't have a great strength either.
we did realize something though. Back when we were in the past with Aurora's old party, they had this anti-shapeshifter thing where you drank this potion, and then if you were ever replaced by a doppelganger, they did the swallow you and digest thing. They would explode and die. So you would know that if you encountered one of these person who drank this potion, it's not a doppelganger because they're impossible to replace. Ben Gerard wasn't there at the time, but Cricket was. So she's drunk that potion. So if Mouth of the Void successfully digests Cricket,
Right.
it will die.
So all you do is damage yourself enough that it kills you before the 5 rounds is over.
Yeah. Now, if I wanted to get super rules lawyery and stuff, I have this ability where when my hit points hit 0, I get half my hit points back. And I was like, does that mean that? And then John was like, no. I'm like, no.
Because you also get your death saves before you.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna die in time to save the party.
Unless you Anthedon.
Even then, I can't actually do anything because I'm in Mithrendane essentially. John is very, very sticklery about that. You can't do things when you're in there. You can only make your saves.
Okay.
Now, actually, I do have an item, a magic item, that is specifically for making saves. And John allowed that I could use that.
Does it do damage to yourself?
No, it allows me to basically end an effect that a save would end. Since I have to make 2 saves in order to get out, I figure I'll hold on to that. When I make the first save, then I'll use it, and that'll count as a second save. But I'm not entirely sure that's a good idea, because it can't swallow anyone now, because Ben Gerard and I are occupying it.
It's actually a lot less damaging. But
And it is...
It does damage, but it's just one thing.
Yeah, and it is bloodied now. So
You're occupying it, you're taking it.
I'm tanking it. Yep. So I am considering that maybe it would be for the best if Ben Gerard and I just stayed where we are, and the rest of the party just no-blooded killed everything they could as fast as they could.
Yeah, because it actually, the fact that it's eaten 2 things now and one of them's not serendipity is bad for it.
Yeah.
Because when I was thinking for some reason it had eaten serendipity, I was commenting that its next move is going to be to run away and hide. Because if it ever eats serendipity, it's going to run away and hide. Because the key is to stop the ritual.
And I've actually used my Guardian's counter for the days, or for the encounter, so I can't do this again. So I'm thinking, yeah, the only problem is that Hank is hurt pretty bad, and I'm the party healer.
Right.
And Croesus probably won't be able to join the fight for a round or 2. So I'm a little bit concerned there. But we might be able to pull it off if next round they just lay into this mouth of the void. It only has, I think you said how many hit points it had. It was like 250 left or something.
Yeah, I did say that.
That's doable. There was a lot of debate about what effects go through that spider hole and what effects don't. If Croesus sets up his kitchen down there, does that
No,
extend?
the squares are not adjacent. You can line an effect through that hole, but you can't have, if you set up a burst above or below the hole, it won't transfer to the other side.
Yeah.
And A, that makes sense. B, I think that actually follows the rules. And C, that's what you would want if the monsters were trying to get you in the spider hole.
Yep, exactly.
So that seems fair.
Yeah. So we got to figure out some way to get Croesus out of there. If we can get him out of there, then things go a lot better. Because the guys topside are just, at this point, they don't have that swallow ability, so they're just, bags of hit points dealing bags of hit points. We can deal with that.
The minions are a problem. There's still about 5 or 6 of them.
I think it's about 4, actually. But it is still a problem because they've dispersed. So minion popping is harder.
Yeah.
Serendipity has 3 rounds of buffer space. So I think she should use those. I think she should just put the ritual on hold for 3 rounds and do whatever she can to kill these guys. And Hank likewise just kill.
Yeah.
Kill.
Kill, Hank, kill.
It would be really nice if that Janissai and the peasant woman were to rush into the room and distract those minions by being killed by them for a little bit. That would solve a lot of problems.
Like you roll a 43 on your diplomacy.
I know.
Wait, what if the peasant woman could actually cricket in the future because I'm actually with a disguise spell and pretend to be knocked out because the party knew how to fight you there.
So you're proposing the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure solution.
Unfortunately, time doesn't work quite that way. We have done this before, but we had to resolve the first combat and then go back in time to redo it.
Right.
And we could well all die.
Yeah.
So.
And if you fail, ultimately, if you fail the ritual, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Well, no. I guess if you fail the ritual and you all die.
Yeah.
I guess if you all die, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I guess that's always true.
What could happen? I mean, we have tinkered with the time tower before, but we've never completely messed with it. We could find out what happens if we completely mess with it. Like,
right, you're just like kick it over.
like okay, the end of all things has actually been summoned, and our first level party is about to get killed. Let's go grab our first nice little party and fly out of here with them.
Right.
Flip the table, Time Tower.
Well, I mean, if your choices are
yeah.
you die and everything is destroyed.
Yeah.
The thing is, the thing that should happen there is your party going to the dungeon. If the Time Tower reasserts that, it's going to go to the end of all things.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, unfortunately, the fact that the end of all things showed up and kills us meant that the time mages were able to do it without disrupting the time. It was their Jenga pull, and apparently they succeeded. It could well be that throughout this campaign, they have made repeated attempts to screw with us, and the time tower has collapsed on them and killed them, and we just never found out about that because they didn't succeed.
I'm just picturing John hiding a second Jenga tower somewhere in his home, in his secret closet, and while he's planning, he pulls blocks, and it doesn't fall down. Like, yes, that works.
Everywhere we go, we keep finding dead time mages. But no, they don't need corpses. So yeah. So anyway, that's where things stand right now. Is it the party's turn next?
I think so. I wrote it down.
Yeah. I think it's the party's turn next. So Cricket and Benjerod are kind of out of things right now.
You know what would be great right about now? A wave of Warforged.
A what?
Wave of Warforged.
A wave of Warforged, yeah. If only there was some nearby that could help us out.
No, not on your side. After all,
Frankly, any increase in the number of targets here for the firing squad, I don't care if they're on our side or not, will work out for us. So yeah, that's where things stand right now. It's pretty dire. I think
And there's a cricket bomb.
there's a cricket bomb, which will go off too late to save the day.
Yeah. Unfortunately, cricket can't kill herself.
No,
like
I can't kill her. She can't kill herself. I think we can probably do it without having to do that.
Yeah.
If a healer is really needed, I can probably get out of there with my saving throw trickery. But for now, it might be best to just keep it stomach occupied.
Yeah. So I can't get.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Star-Lord on Serendipity? I didn't remember.
Because she killed a star,
Oh, right.
Aurora's brother. Yeah, we kept suggesting Star Killer instead, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Star Killer.
Bendak Starkiller? Bendak Starkiller?
Bendak Star
He's
Wars.
an NPC you find in KOTOR.
Oh, okay. I know Star Killer's from Star Wars, but I didn't know about Bendak Star Killer.
He's from a Bioware game.
Luke's original name was going to be Star Killer in the early versions of the scripts. Anyway, I guess I'll conclude the recording because that's where we are.